Last week, I was waiting for my daughter to finish her dancing class, and I was all about to preparing myself for my coaching session that I supposed to have the next day, and then for some reason I was attracted to my phone. And guess what? In my phone, I spotted the message from David Parker, who is with me here today, with the link attached to his message, with some, let's say, sentence saying, please watch it. This is my healing story. And again, even though I have to prepare myself for my coaching session, I forgot about that. And straight away, I watched David's story and I was hypnotizing. It was a mind blowing story. And people who know me here know that I always need to use this kind of opportunity. And I didn't think, even, for a second, I decided to send message back to David with a question if he's going to show up for us on our Silva Method YouTube Island channel, because David, as I've already said to you before our live appearance, in my opinion, you are a gift to this world, and we need to share more story like yours to the peoples, because my one of my life motto, maybe not the life motto, but the reminder that I love to reminding people for the decade, as per my services of the Silva Method instructor, is you are more than you think that you are. So that's why we have you here, and I am absolutely delighted. I see that we have a people here with us already. So guys, please, I am absolutely honored and grateful. Beside me, you see a David Parker, Silva Method graduate, who, listen to this, completed his first class in 1981 with one and only Jose Silva. And for everyone who are seeing me here for the first time, just a quick introductions. My name is Katarzyna, but it's easier to call me Kate. And I am the host of this channel and at the same time, the Silva Method instructor. So David, please let us know, how are you keeping? I know that you are right now in Arizona. So let us know how is everything out there. And if you don't mind to start to telling us a little bit more about yourself and how your spiritual journey started.
I've had an incredible life. I had an incredible childhood, and I was raised by my grandmother. My parents were off doing things, and we lived on a farm. We had no indoor plumbing. We were out in the middle of nowhere. Um, uh, and then finally, my parents were in school and college, and I started living with them, and they just took me to everything spiritual. We had snake handling churches. My mom would take me to go see them. We had the whirling dervish. We're traveling through the United States, and my mom was so enthralled with them. We followed them through two different states, every performance that they did, and we went to watch them. For a while, we were in Jim Jones's church, the People's Temple, and of course that had a negative outcome many years later. But I was in his church back in the early '60s. We just went from my parents exposed me to so much religious and new age thought. We were in Eckankar and practiced out of the body travel. So we talked about it constantly, and it was wonderful to grow up in a household where if you had a spiritual experience, you weren't shamed by it. You weren't frightened by it. We just talked about it over supper. And years later, I barely made it through high school. I just did not focus that much. And years later, I decided to go to nursing school. And I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to how am I going to get through college when I didn't do all that well in high school? And a friend of mine who was a semi-famous psychic told me about Silva. He had taken Silva, and he said this will really help you in school. And I said, well, I'll do it. I do it. So I signed up for the class. I took the class, and I must say, one of the best things I learned in Silva that I can use in every aspect of my life is the ability to think one thought at a time. To sum up everything that I've learned, that's something that I've used in every aspect of my life, and especially studying in school. I had taken the Silva class, and then college was starting. Um, we had um, we had an anatomy and physiology class I had to take, and we're studying the body. We're going to be nurses. You got to know everything about the physical body. And in our textbooks, they had these beautiful drawn organs. The liver just looked real pretty, and the heart was pretty, and the spleen was pretty. And then we had to have a cadaver and actually go through it and identify all the body parts. Well, the cadaver looked like they had been dead 100 years. I mean, it looked nothing like the beautiful drawings that were in the book. And I'm thinking, "Oh, how am I gonna pass this test?" And they had little numbers stuck on pins on all these organs, and we had to go through and identify them. Well, end up somebody playing a prank moved all the organs around in the cadaver. So, the kidneys were up in the shoulders, and, the livers, where the heart's supposed to be. And it's like, oh, I know this isn't right. So I went to level. I did the 333-222-111, the magic phone number. I went to level, and in my mind, I gave all the organs on this cadaver faces and mouths and hands. And I said, "What are you?" And at my level, this one organ that is in the wrong place in the body spoke up and said, "I'm a kidney." So I wrote down all this, a kidney. And then I asked her, "What are you?" I mean, it was a liver. Well, it had been shrunk up to next to nothing. I mean, who would have recognized it? So I wrote down liver, and I used the techniques of relaxing and going to a deeper level, and used my imagination and visualized the organs telling me what they were. I got 100%. I was the only person that did through the whole
Wow.
test. And I was like, there's my validation.
Exactly. And how
It
how
worked.
such an amazing story of using your creative
Mhm.
visualization and imaginations, right? In terms
And
of
I
being
used
good.
and I used this later on. I've used this multiple times, and especially later on when I tell you about my healing that I've done, I used pretty much that same technique. And then study time. I would do the technique that I learned in the Silva class. I'm about to read this chapter. I'm going to remember this chapter. Whenever I need to recall information from this chapter, I put my three fingers together. Or what I've added to, I said, I'll just take a deep breath. Anytime I take a deep breath, I go to my level. I added that because sometimes you're driving or something, and you
Yes.
can't
Yes.
necessarily use
Yes.
your three fingers, and you can't shut your eyes. So take a deep breath, and I go to level, and I can just feel it. You can just feel that. It's interesting. A few years ago, probably about 6, 7 years ago, I was still working as a nurse. I'm retired now, and I
Yes.
was talking to several of our physicians about meditation because some of them were meditating, and we had a sleep center where people do for
Mhm.
they sleep all night and they check their EEGs and their oxygen saturations for apnea. And we had a great EEG machine in there. They said, "Hey, let's go wire you up and have you go to level and see what's going on." And this was a high tech EEG machine. So I did it. I went to level, and in a couple minutes, I was down almost into theta, and they were just amazed. And it was kind of weird because everybody's staring at you, and you got all these things on
Yes.
your head. But still, I was able to go into a deep level.
Amazing.
And as far as I know, almost every single physician that was there signed up for the Silva class after that.
Wow.
Who knew?
I'm not surprised, of course, yes. And I'm glad that you mentioned about EEG machine because, sometimes I do have in the classes people and they are like, having this question. So, Kate, Kasia, can you please tell me how I can physically measure,
Mhm.
to see that I am at alpha or theta level?
Yeah.
And here you
Back
are,
when
you have a David
There it
story.
is.
Absolutely.
Back when I took Silva, they were selling EEG, little biofeedback machines. They were like $250, which was a lot of money back then. And, it's like, "Well, I'm not paying that." But I had one. They had him at the class when I took Silva, and it kind of, it kind of told you if you were in level or not. It made all these beeps, and when you're a new graduate and you're just in the class, it was very distracting. But you can feel it. Go with your feeling. And Silva's built that right into the techniques, especially like the long relax. And concentrate on your scalp. Feel the tingling in your scalp, the vibration of warmth, and practice that because you're using your body as an antenna for the universe. This
Mhm.
is you're using your body as a source to get information, and that's your point of reference. So the
Absolutely.
more that you use your body and feel the sensations, and if you don't really feel a tingling in your scalp, imagine it. What would a tingling in my scalp feel like? That's training you to tune in to sources of information that prior you've never been accustomed to using.
Yes.
So,
No, that's great introduction, and thank you so much. You've been very, very lucky to rise up in such a great family. I think that due to this fact, you absolutely, we can see that, we can feel it, how open you are to everything what you just shared with us. But David, if you don't mind, I know, and people who are watching right now my interview with you, they are aware that there is a link underneath of that video to your own healing story. So I know that it has been already shared. You record your video on, as you said, Valentine's Day. So not so far ago, maybe like around 2 weeks ago, about how you've been able to heal a stroke by using the Silva Method approach. So I know that it's there, but if you don't mind
sure.
right now to bring us a little bit more context about this situation, how everything happened, and at least maybe two, three things that
Okay.
you did for yourself in terms of your healing. I think that people are waiting for it.
It was December, just a couple months ago. Um, I had a major stroke, and um, I fell into a wall and then fell on the floor and knocked 3 teeth out. Um, I didn't know what happened. Oh my god, they hurt. Who who knew? And I've been a nurse and I've taken care of stroke patients for years. I didn't realize there was that much pain, but I'll get into that later. Um, I did happen to have my phone in my hand, and one half of my body didn't work because you have a stroke, and the other side of the stroke, that part of the body is paralyzed, and I was able to call 911 and get some help. So they rushed me to the hospital. I'm in ICU, and I'm on the floor that I used to work as a nurse. I had worked on that. Oh, that was just so weird. For years to be the caregiver, and now I'm the care receiver and laying in the bed and laying in a room where I had cared for hundreds of people in the past over the years. Now I'm the patient. So I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. I could kind of open one eye. The physicians and the nurses wouldn't talk to me because I was non-responsive, and in their minds, I'm unconscious, but I
Yeah.
could hear everything that was going on. I wanted to know what happened, and I had this excruciating pain in my head, and I thought maybe I had been shot. Maybe there was a drive-by
Mhm.
shooting, and a stray bullet hit me. I didn't realize that I had a stroke, and I couldn't ask, and no one spoke to me. I remember the doctors were talking about putting me on hospice, and I was a hospice nurse for 17 years. And I thought, oh my God, I'm really bad. So, when I was a nurse and I was taking care of unconscious patients, I could feel their spirit. I could feel their energy. And even though they couldn't speak, I spoke to them. I spoke to them mentally, spiritually, and I spoke to them verbally. And I would tell them, this is what's going on. My name's David. I'm going to be your nurse today. You
Mhm.
got the best nurse anywhere because I'm going to take such good care of you. And I could feel I would go to level and I would just open myself up to receive whatever energy um, that I could get from my patients, and I could tell, even though they're non-responsive, if they were in pain, and I would just go ahead and give them pain medicine. I would reposition. I could tell if they were uncomfortable, and, I would turn my patients. No one did that for me, and let me tell you, by the time I got home, I wrote some really big letters to the hospital about this. So, I'm laying there, no one's talking to me, and I think, well, I guess I'm gonna have to do this myself. So I went to level. I'm paralyzed, and I went to level 333, 222, 111, and there's so much power in being able to shrink your consciousness to a tiny, tiny level. And in the Silva class, remember, I don't, where you imagine you're going into a cell in the back of your hand, and you shrink your attention down. You shrink yourself to such a small little point. There's no room for distraction when you use that technique in Silva. And that's what I did. I went small, smaller, smaller. I kept saying tiny, tiny, tinier. And I went down to the smallest level of like cell level consciousness. And I went inside my own brain and started looking around. Is there a bullet? I mean, what happened? And I come up to this huge blood clot. And I'd never seen a blood clot, when you're tiny and the clot's just
Yeah.
huge. So there it is stuck in my brain. I actually had a second stroke the next day. And what do you do? So I gave the clot a face. I gave him eyes, a nose and a mouth and hands. It looked like we used to have a toy here in the United States called Mr. Potato Head. I don't know if you guys had it. And it's hands and eyes and things, and you stick it in
Okay.
the potato to make it look like some, I don't know. Then what do you do with it? You can't, after a while it rots. But that's what it looked like. And I started talking to the clot. And he opened his eyes and he said his mouth, hey Dave, how you doing? And I said, well, not too well, thanks to you. So instead of seeing the stroke as the enemy, instead of seeing it as something bad, I made friends with it. I said, listen, I said, you look like a hot clot. I was trying to give him a compliment. Well, that was his name then. I called him Hot Clot. I says, I appreciate that you need to have your experience, and you've chosen me to have your experience as a clot, but you're interfering in my life. I can't speak. I can't talk. I can't turn. I can't move my hands. You're interrupting in my neurons. I said, would you do me a favor, buddy? Would you mind moving on? And then the clot said to me, he said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm totally unaware that I'm causing problems. What can we do?" So I said, "Well, let's work together and dismantle the clot. Let's move you on somewhere else where you can have your experience of being a clot, but not interfere in anybody else's life, including me." So Hot Clot said, "Well, sure, Dave, let's do that." So using my imagination, and Hot Clot and I were taking the cells out, and a clot in your brain, it was a stroke. If you have a clot in your heart, it can be a heart attack.
Yeah.
If you have a clot in your legs, it's a thrombosis. If you have a clot in your lung, it's an embolus. You can get them anywhere, and it's your own blood. It's a part of your own blood trying to save your life, because if you bleed or something, the clotting factor stops you from bleeding to death. So it's a benefit, but something goes wrong and you develop a clot. So one by one, Hot Clot and I took the thrombus cells and dismantled them, and we kind of polished them off and made them clean, and then let them go in the bloodstream, telling them, go ahead and do your job, but don't, you're not going to cause any more damage. And one by one, I'm doing this with cells. Cells. I was in level for 12 hours a day because what
Mhm.
else could I do? I'm stuck in bed. I can't turn. My lips are stuck in my broken teeth. It was so painful. And and I'm telling the clot, we're going to dismantle cell by cell. and the clot was in agreement with me. I was we became friends, and I asked a friend, for a favor. So I wasn't a victim. I didn't play the role of victim. I
Exactly.
didn't play the role of the clot as the enemy. We were buddies. We were friends. Oops, you know, the clot formed in my head. You know, your best friends come over and they'll spill coffee on your on your rug. They don't mean to. It's just a little inconvenience. It's like, oh, here we can clean that up. And that was the attitude I had with my stroke. And the pain, let me tell you what I used with the Silva method and the pain. And in the Silva method, we had the pain control thing, the glove anesthesia and all
Yes.
that. That didn't quite work for me, which is
Mhm.
fine, but in the long relax, and I do the long relax twice a day now for years. I do it, I meditate for probably 45 minutes twice a day, maybe longer. And I used to listen to the recording of it. Now I've got it completely memorized. And there's that part of the long relax where you say, my feet, my ankle, my calves no longer feel as though they're a part of my body. And then you count your way up. And I love that part of that meditation because, again, you're using your physical body for the sensations and as a point of reference. So I did that with the clot of my brain. This section of my brain will no longer feel as if it's part of my body. That section of my brain, at the count of three, will no longer feel as if it's a part of my body. One, two, three. There went the pain. That was the pain control technique that worked for me. And
Amazing. And
so I,
I'm glad that you mentioned, because even though when we teach you the long relax exercise or centering exercise, we don't really talk about as a benefit of using in that particular moment. So I'm glad that you are bringing this out, because as I like to say, every single Silva method grads can use creativity, right, for their own use. And this is
yes,
very powerful stuff about the Silva method.
right, right. It was. And it was just, um, and I visualized the end product, which is
Mhm.
me, back home and taking care of everything. So as I healed and I was getting better very rapidly, it wasn't a surprise. It was like a review because in my mind, I was already healed. So it
Mhm.
wasn't like, "Ooh, I'm getting better. I'm getting better." It's like, well, of course I'm getting better because I am better. I've already seen myself completely healed. And yeah, I've taken a dismantling hour after hour
Mhm.
after hour, because what else am I going to do? Laying there in a bed. And I pulled the cells out one by one, and I cherished them. I mean, it was causing a problem, but that's a part of me. It's part of my experience. And to wipe the cells off and making sure they're just fine and send them on their way. And I would wave in the bloodstream because I'm tiny as the cell is. Go take care of something else. Blood cell. We'll see you later. And one by one, I was just taking them apart. And I started gaining control. I was able to uh, move a little bit, but I couldn't speak. I was completely
Mhm.
aphasic. So I used I used my little technique again that I used when I was starting nursing school. I could think clearly, but I couldn't move my mouth. So I gave my brain, I call it my thinking brain, um, I gave it hands and eyes and a nose and a mouth. And, it's waving at me, hey, Dave, here I am, your thinking brain. And I gave it an old fashioned dial phone, like from the 1940s, those big clunker
Mhm.
ones. And, it could pick up because it has hands. My brain had hands and could talk. And then I imagined this wire going all the way through my brain around the clot and went down to my mouth. And I gave my mouth eyes, a nose. It already had a mouth. It had hands. So I had my thinking brain call my mouth. and the
Mhm.
mouth would pick up and say, "Hey, brain, what's going on?" And brain would say, "Hey, we need to start speaking." So I would have my brain tell my mouth to say, "Hello, hello, hello." And I started being able to move my lips finally. I couldn't speak, right?
Mhm.
And then kept to going on, "Hello, hello, hello," and then the mouth is saying, "Okay, hello, hello, hello." And then, a day or 2, I lost kinda track of time. I was able to start moving my mouth, and then I could take a deep breath, and I could start making sounds and start saying, "Hello, hello, hello," and I did this hour after hour after hour.
Mhm.
At the same time, I'm dismantling the big clot in my brain, sending those cells with love on, improving every single moment, every single cell that I dismantled. I sent it with love, and I just imagine the neurons. The neurons are able to get around the clot, and they're starting to connect to my mouth, to my eyes, to my body. I have sent all this energy to every neuron through my body so I can start moving my muscles again. And I've cared for thousands of stroke patients in 42 years or 40 years
Mhm.
as a nurse. And some get better, um, some get a little better, some get a lot better. I got
Mhm.
tremendously better very rapidly. And I would say, other than a little bit of issue with balance, I'm back to normal in about 2 months. So and using the imagination, and I just kept going, just kept going. There was no room for doubt. There was no room
Yeah.
for being a victim. There was no room for being sick. It was uh, I saw myself perfectly healed, and I had the tools ready because I practiced the Silva method. I practiced my meditation for years prior to this. So
Yeah.
it wasn't difficult. It
Yeah.
was like, this is what I've been practicing for all this time, and I didn't realize it. I didn't
Absolutely.
realize it was gonna save my life, and it did, and it was simple, and it was pleasant, and it was fun, and I had a good time, and even though I wasn't laughing on the outside, I was laughing on the inside, with the animation.
No, David, wow. Thank you so much for bringing out so many amazing elements
Yeah,
and fundamentals, of everything what you just shared, because I'm just going quickly to repeat and recap. Guys, look for David's attitude. Shift of perspective. Like you said, you couldn't feel that you are a victim. You are not a victim out there. You straight away knew that you see yourself from the end point, the moment that you wanted to see and feel yourself. So, I just really like to kind of repeat this because this is fundamentals of the Silva method. And the most, for me, exciting ways to hear it is that you had a fun. And I love to say that the Silva method is such a simple and funny way for us to make our life better and better. And you just said that everything in your last 10 minutes. So thank you so, so, so much for that. Guys, please let us know in the comment box how did you find this story, because I think that it would be just great compliment for David to hear it from you. Okay, David, so that's absolutely amazing. I think that it says everything about your practice, about who you are, about the fact that you are such a believer in everything what you like said practice in the past. But would you have maybe just more simple or some more nowadays story, current story that you can share with us in terms of how the Silva method supporting you on the daily basis?
okay.
Because
Yeah,
obviously that was huge,
right.
right? That was huge. But just, like the little things, little step in terms of how the Silva method is helping you on the daily basis.
One other thing as a nurse, and I, went into nursing school as a Silva graduate and kind of figuring things out. They used to call me No Miss Dave because I never missed an IV when I had to start it on a patient. And using the Silva technique and shrinking my attention down, I put my attention on the very tip of the needle. So when I was starting an IV, of course, you can't shut your eyes. The patient's not going to like that. And I kept my eyes open. I learned and practiced um, keeping my attention, keeping my eyes open, watching what I'm doing, but keeping my inner attention on that tiny microscopic uh, focus um, that I had learned in the Silva techniques on the tip of the needle, and the viewpoint from that perspective, I could see when the needle went right into the vein, and then you have to advance it just a little bit, and then you slide a catheter off that goes into the vein. I saw it every single time. I never missed an IV. That's why they call me No Miss Dave. And uh, so, of course, my patients lucked out, getting me to start their IVs. But I give 100% credit to what I learned in the Silva Method.
Yeah.
Back then, it was called Silva Mind Control. Same
Yes.
thing, same thing. But I later worked newborn nursery, NICU, ICU, and I worked labor and delivery, and so I'm starting IVs on newborn babies, and I'm
Mhm.
doing this technique.
Mhm.
So what a great tool. Who would have guessed?
Yes.
When you sit there in that class for 4 days and you're kind of overwhelmed, it's like, well, they're doing this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
Um, give us some time to settle in, and through every day. It's interesting when I'm driving down the road, and some of the people driving by might have been babies that I helped deliver 40 years ago. They very well could be grandparents by now. And when I drive through traffic, I just send out this energy. It's like a radar. And it's like, who do I need to focus my attention on? Who's in this car that maybe needs a little love? Maybe
Wow.
who's in this car that's, maybe had a bad day? Something's going on that I need to focus more of my attention on. So while I'm driving, I'm opening up I become like a radar. Um, for what's going on in other people's lives, and how can I make something a little better today for them right now. So
Wow.
I'm driving down the road and I let people ahead of me. I can feel maybe there's a little tension in that car. Well, let's give them a break. Let's give them a little wave. Hey, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. You can go. You can have that parking spot. I'll park over here. I need to exercise anyway. And it's just opened me up so much to, and of course nursing, and I was drawn to nursing because I care about people.
Yeah.
It's it just opened me up to feeling what's going on in somebody else's life and how can I
Mhm.
serve them just a bit better.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What I can say. Wow, wow, and wow. And David, I remember in your original video that you send it to me and now people can watch underneath of this video. I'm talking about how you heal
Uh-huh.
a stroke. You mentioned that you repeated Silva method classes 25 times.
Yes, I have.
I have to ask you what kind of benefits you are trying to find every single time once you go, to the class as a Silva grads. Because for me, it was very, very inspiring. Now obviously you are, as I said to you already, a walking proof that everything what you just practice, right? You just put it into your life, and now I have opportunity to talk to you after that accident. But if you can please, share your own benefits of being, as a Silva Method grads and repeated the classes so many times, because I think that people, again, they can gain so much from your answer.
The years ago I used to hike and go up mountains, not big mountain climbing with ropes, but just kind of hike up mountains. And you get to a place on a mountain and you look down on the valley and everything's just so gorgeous.
Mhm.
But you go up a little higher and it's like, oh, I've gone up 100 feet and now it's even better. I can see more. I can see a wider view of the valley. And the higher you go, the more you can see. And I
Yes.
think that's true with taking the classes. Especially the first time, there's so much that goes on, and
Yes.
what do I do? You got to figure that out. Taking the classes again, it increases my viewpoint. It increases the vantage where I see the universe and my place in the universe and what I can do and serve the universe. So every time I take it, I feel I've gone up so many feet up the mountain, and now I see more. Now, oh, now I understand that. Oh, I remember that from last time, but it just went over my head. So the more you take it, the more you're picking up um, uh, the benefits from it because
Yeah.
you've grown. You've
Yeah.
grown since the last time you took the
Yeah.
course.
Amazing.
The whole world's changed because your attitude changes and
Yeah.
where you place your attention changes. Those are two things you can change any time in your life is your attitude and where you place your attention. And as you're doing these exercises and figuring out new ways to interact with other people and new ways to interact with the universe, which is so many levels. It's physical, it's spiritual, it's mental, it's emotional, it's the soul level. The more you practice, the bigger your viewpoint gets.
Yeah.
So I always got so much more out of Silva every time I've taken it, and now that they offer it on Zoom,
Yes.
it is that's just wonderful. Uh, I've taken it from people I never would have had the opportunity before. And every instructor brings their own special talent to it. And every time an instructor, as you would know, every time you teach it and every time you lead it, you're going up that mountain too. Your viewpoint changes too. So what am I going to learn from you next year when if I took a class from you, I'm going to get something else. It's
Yeah.
you don't stop. Just keep going. I've taken it from so many different people.
That's
And
lovely. That's lovely.
yeah,
And if I can share, because you said to me before we went live that you actually love online classes, Zoom
I
classes, because
love oh, it's wonderful. I mean, you're in your own house, you got your own restroom, you're not standing in line, got your own kitchen. There's, not someone snoring, going from step to step, which I love. I think that's so funny. But,
Oh yes.
you don't hear that. Doing the casework online, I I even more accurate, when we practice online because you don't have the distractions and you can really, really focus. It's
Yeah.
great being around people, but I enjoy the Zoom classes. I would
Super.
recommend that to anybody because you can take it in any country
Yes.
and pick up on those
Absolutely.
vibrations. And the ability to audit this class for such, it's very affordable. And
Oh yes.
the only
Yes.
thing you're investing is your time and your willingness to grow even more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, David. And listen, if you don't mind, because you shared with us so many tools, so Silva Grads, they would be definitely up to date with everything what you just said.
Yeah.
But if I can ask you, it will be, very personal for myself. Do you have your favorite Silva Method tool?
Yes. I'll tell you something, and of course, I do the long relax, the centering exercise. I do it twice a day. Of course, it's memorized. Um, Probably, the 3 finger. I use the 3 finger technique,
Mhm. Mhm.
constantly. Um, Another meditation I do at least once a week is
Mhm.
I don't know what it's called, where you're seeing the, bananas spinning on the wall, and you're
Oh,
changing
yeah,
the
projection
background.
to the house. Oh,
That
really?
you go into the house.
Wow.
I do that, and I have it on tape, and I listen to it now and then, but then I pull up my memory of it because that's practicing on your visualization, and, and I do that because it's movement, it's color, it's depth, it's getting your viewpoint off the back of your eyelids and you're projecting it, on the wall. So it's away from you. And I see in the colors and the movements. And then you smell the banana, you smell the lemon, and you change the wall color. That is such a valuable technique to um, to improve intuition.
Yes.
And to me, it's all about intuition because the
Yeah.
the broader you're able to accept information from wherever. It's just going to make you a better person, a stronger person. And
Mhm.
when push comes to shove, and I was pushed, I was paralyzed. Um, these techniques came into play, and I really too. I think I'm walking, talking, and moving right now, all because of the Silva method.
Yes. Wow. I
Yeah.
just need to read for you a few comments because I obviously I am just so inspired already. People want to have you as your neighbor.
Ah, come
And
on!
one person said that they are Silva grad thanks to you. So it's absolutely amazing. David, you are such a beautiful soul, an amazing person. Energy doesn't lie. Absolutely. So just wanted to share it with you because while I'm listening to you, I just see the comments popping up. So
Oh,
it's
I don't see
absolutely
them.
amazing, David. Absolutely amazing. So, David, I think that you just show everything what the Silva method can offer to us. So, to be honest with you, I probably don't have any questions to you because what I can ask you, you're just a living proof of everything what we are teaching in the classes. But for some reason, this is what I strongly feel. If you don't mind, before we are going to go, share with us something that you feel right now in your heart, some powerful messages to people who maybe did a Silva method classes in the past, but they are just not practicing this, or they are all about to do the Silva method classes, but like you said, maybe they just finding so many excuses, right? What would you say to them? Just leave us with
Let me
something
tell you.
really, really beautiful. Yeah.
You know what? If you got a job, you go to work and you focus on what you need to do at work. I was a nurse. Some people work in an office. You pump gas, whatever it is. When you go to work, you don't tell your boss, "Oh, I don't feel like doing it today. I don't feel like." I don't feel like starting that IV. I don't feel like, making that sandwich. If you work in a restaurant or you're serving people, I don't feel like doing it today. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow.
Yes.
Well, guess what? You're not going to have a job very long because your job is you go to work, you shower, you shave, you do your hair, you drive to work, you spend so many hours at work focusing on whatever it is you're supposed to do because it benefits you. You get a paycheck. Your mind, where you focus your attention, where you place your priorities, that's your job. You have a job too, just as much as going to work 40 hours a week. Uh, you have a job to yourself. You got responsibilities to do. And being able to control your thoughts, being able to focus on one thing at a time, being able to have tools in your toolbox so when something goes wrong, you can put it back in place. Having these mental tools that you learn through the Silva method, you can avoid so many problems that would ever come in your life. It's your job, it's your work. Your your employer is you. And you're the employer and you're the employee. This is your work. And you can't just say, well, I don't feel like, brushing my teeth for the next month. You're not going to have teeth left. You need to practice. You need to take care of you. And I consider that when I do my meditations, it's because that's what I do for myself. I got to take care of me first. You put gas in your car. If you don't put gas in your car, you're not going to go anywhere. I need to put gas in me. I need to learn the tools to have a better life. And that's why I still practice. Still do my meditations. I've done one already today. Yeah,
That's amazing. That's
yeah,
amazing. And it's around what time? It's almost lunchtime, right? At your
that's right.
location.
Yeah,
Yes, yes. Okay, David. So thank you so much for finding a time to showing up here on that platform. I'm pretty sure that this video is going to be viral and
I hope.
many, many people are going to watch this video later on. And this is my responsibility to share that with as many people as I can
This
because
is your work.
it's
This
my
is it.
work. It's
This
my
is it.
work, exactly. And like you said, right, again, before we just went online, that It's really all about to share this story because
Yeah.
it's a huge reminder for people to know that they have absolutely everything within yourself to make their life better and better.
Mhm.
And that was the reason, the part of my mission to have you here, because I think that as many as people like you we are going to have here, and they are going to share their story,
Yeah.
this life is not going to be only a better for them, but like you said today, when you are driving your car or wherever, you help others right
Yes.
away. How amazing service it is. I am just wow.
We
Wow.
have everything already. It's just how to use it. You
Yes.
know, my knife in my kitchen I can use to cut some bread, but a surgeon would use a knife to save somebody's life.
Yes.
And it's just the skills that you develop.
Yes.
And the Silva method will teach whatever your level in life is, whatever your position in life is, how to take it to the next step. Keep going up the mountain, get a better viewpoint.
Super. Thank you, David. I only want to mention one thing, that more very inspiring and interesting videos of David's you can find on his own YouTube channel, Uncle Dave's Kitchen. And I'm right, David? Is it the right channel? Yeah, I'm going anyway to link that channel underneath of this video,
Right.
because
It's
I
It's
yeah.
Uncle Dave's Kitchen. Retired and I wanted to do a cooking show. I love to cook. And and then I got to thinking, I've got these incredible stories inside of me.
Yes.
Everybody's teaching you how to make biscuits and gravy. So now, so far, I'm just recording a lot of my spirit stories that I've had throughout my life. Wonderful, wonderful, incredible stories.
Absolutely. They are amazing. I've already watched few, but I am planning actually to watch more. So guys, make also to subscribe David's channel. And David, if you don't mind, I have a feeling that we are going to ask you to show up here again in the very, very close future. If you don't mind,
I'd love it.
just to think about something that it's very much connected with the Silva method, but it's also in relations to energy and spiritual aspect. I think that it will be great. Casework, we already have an idea. People want to tell you more about the casework. Thank you so much, Earl. Absolutely, we are going to do it. So, David, I will be in touch. Thank you so much on behalf of myself, on behalf
Thanks,
of
everybody.
all Silva Method graduates and everyone who are governed here on our platform. And what can I say? Better and better. And till the next time. Thank you so much.
Bye bye, everybody.